Professor Antoinette Dimitrova, who also welcomed us to her university. You've been listening to the three speakers, and the panel is going to be about the role of the European Union in the future of Ukraine. You are into comparative politics, you're an expert on different things that were discussed. So I can imagine you have many things, but if you would prioritize, maybe if you want to respond to one or two things that were said with your personal perspective, and then open up about what you think the role of the EU should be in rebuilding Ukraine and its future.
Thank you. So I think just to bring us to the fact that I think so far we are a little bit too much in agreement. We are preaching to the choir here. I don't think there's many people in this room who don't agree that Russia should be stopped and that the war should be stopped. And maybe what I want to do is to offer a little bit more pessimistic assessment, which is not because I don't support what Andriy has said, which I fully do. But I think, to agree with the last speaker, I think we're in much more trouble than it sounds by what we've already said. The Dutch elections campaign, which we were all witnessed from here, had hardly anything on defense, security, or Ukraine. It was literally as if the war didn't exist. And things have not improved since in Parliament, talking about overt disinformation. The fact that Russia violated almost every possible aspect of the international order, as the panel said, is hardly reflected on in the Dutch Parliament. And let's not forget, when we talk about what the European Union is doing and what the European Union should be doing, of course, the key decision makers, perhaps unfortunately, are the member states on foreign policy, on enlargement. So, what did the member states do? In a certain way, the member states did a lot, and in another way, they did too little. So, they did a lot. If you look at the first European Council meeting in Versailles already in March 2022, the member states already started changing their long-standing position on Ukraine and EU membership. Let's not forget Ukraine has wanted two things out of the European Union in all the spirit. One has been military support for the war, and the other has been EU membership. So already in Versailles, the European Council started saying Ukraine is part of the European family. And it's difficult to let's not underemphasize how important this is, given that up to the beginning of the war, the European Union has always refused to give Ukraine what has been called European perspective, in other words, the possibility to become a candidate to negotiate for EU membership. So this was also based on the referendum in the Netherlands, in this country, in 2016, in which the association agreement with the European Union negotiated for 7 years with Ukraine was rejected, and even though this was a consultative referendum, it gave us a taste of the things to come and did not allow the Dutch Parliament to ratify the agreement and to let it come into force until there was a special addendum to the treaty which said we're not letting Ukraine in the European Union. So this is what we're sitting and looking at, and I don't think we should forget that, because it's going to come to bite us. If we turn 2 years back to February 2024, the European Council decided on the creation of the European facility, of the Ukrainian facility, with 50 billion for Ukraine in the period 2024-2027, which is good news. The bad news is that they had to really manhandle Mr. Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and at the previous European Council, when the European Union agreed to start negotiations with Ukraine, Mr. Orban had to go and have a coffee. Which is unprecedented in EU decision-making, because the decision has to be taken by unanimity. So we are in trouble because the European Union has a neoliberal government in the face of Mr. Viktor Orban, and because his government is now rumored to be stopping the next package of sanctions against Russia. So in that respect, I don't think we have a very good picture here that we are looking at. And perhaps what the European Union can do before we can say what it can do for Ukraine, which is quite a lot in reconstruction and also in relations and continuing to keep Ukraine on the path to membership. One of the things that we can all do is consider very carefully during this campaign for the European Parliament who we vote for, in the sense that predictions that far-right parties, some of which repeat Kremlin disinformation, we're not talking about position in favor of Russia, we're talking about Kremlin disinformation. Some of these parties are projected to win considerable amount of seats in the forthcoming European Parliament election. So let's think a little bit about those of you who are voters, what we can do, which is a very, very tangible thing we can look forward to at the European elections.
Yeah, thank you very much for. It's sad to hear the bleak picture, but it's a reality check that I think really is part of this discussion as well. Now, if we would take the question about the role of the EU in the future of Ukraine a step further, to all of the panelists, and just let me know if you want to speak by nodding or raising a hand. What kind of policies are we talking about that the EU should pursue with most priority? We spoke a bit about the assets with Thijs already to dive into that, but there may be many others. So is there anything in particular that we should be prioritizing when we give our leaders going into the council or our parliamentarians the assignment to talk about Ukraine on our behalf? What are the policies?
Anyone? Oh. Well, a very simple one maybe. It would already be fantastic if the European Union, and in particular the member states, would refrain from making all the mistakes we made with the Western Balkan countries. Because with the Western Balkan countries, I think some of you also know, we made a lot of mistakes about promises that were not kept, about not investing in the right way in the future of the countries, about not distinguishing between the stabilizers, encouraging stabilitocracy in certain countries instead of encouraging the democratic forces, etc., etc. And one example that could help is to not wait